Hello guys, welcome to another video in the Sketchbook series. This time I prefer to do a slow time lapse of about 10 minutes so as to show the whole process of creating this little 30-minute sketch. I started scribbling with pencil on my sketchbook, and after drawing eyes and nose I decided to take it all on video. So I started from scratch by erasing the eyes and nose I drew and starting the recording from zero. I started off by sketching the face I had in mind. I like to draw older people because the face is marked by more lines and wrinkles, and I like to characterize this kind of faces with line art. I started with a very rough sketch just to put elements I had thought of to bring the face I had in mind to life without dwelling too much on the details and the precision of the shapes. The idea behind this sketch was to use the brush pen to give the face the most human features possible with an expression that would convey something to the viewer, that of a man who has been through a lot. And then use the fine liners to draw the cybernetic body. I had in mind to convey the feeling of contrast between human and robot through the use of different tools. I am not used to using a brush pen, honestly. I always use stiff, fine-pointed pens. This little sketch, however, made me appreciate the potential of the brush pen and made me want to use it again and improve. Sometimes a new tool gives us new inspiration and pushes us to explore new things in art. For example, I love the effect that the brush pen gives to hair, beard and mustache. It is a much more natural stroke than with fine liners, and that's why I think that in future I will definitely give more space to the brush pen in my drawings so that I will have more variety in my lines. With this sketch I realized that I struggle with line thickness with the brush pen. Being used to very thin pens, the feel of the brush pen is quite different and requires a lot of control. Sometimes in the sketch I made line thicker than I wanted and put more black than I had in mind, so I will have to practice a bit using this tool. It requires a lot of control but gives a lot of expressiveness and character to the lines when used well. Okay, now let's go back to the idea behind this sketch for a second. This age is dominated by artificial intelligence, and the line between real and artificial, human and machine is increasingly thin. That's why I wanted to create an expressive face that immediately recalls the idea of a real person, with a face marked by years and life. Only when you see the body and the wires you do realize that it is not human but a robot. The face, it's just a mask on top. This sketch encapsulates the idea that it is increasingly difficult to tell whether what we are looking at is real or generated by a prompt. And I think that in the information age, with increasingly incorrect and unrestrained political propaganda and disinformation spreading on social media everywhere, I think that this is an extremely important issue. Today, for example, it is possible to make a deepfake video to discredit a person, and even if the video is eventually proven to be fake, the damage to the public opinion remains. I recently started reading Origin by Boichi, one of my favorite mangaka ever, and I am probably influenced a lot by that work. I love stories set in the future. Sci-fi and cyberpunk are my favorite genres ever, and Boichi is a master in this field, so I really recommend to read his manga. Anyway, this manga, Origin, it is indeed based on the presence of robots in the society that are indistinguishable from humans. So also there is central the theme of the increasingly blurred boundary between artificial and human, between real and virtual, as in many dystopian tales. In my opinion, technological progress is unstoppable and necessary, yet it should always be regulated and managed through laws that protect people. The problem is that progress is often too fast for laws to keep up, and there are many interests on the part of multinational corporations that restrain the process in order to take advantage of the technology and dominate that niche market. A clear and recent example is the use of AI in the arts. Don't get me wrong. AI is an important and revolutionary tool in so many areas. I know it. For example, I am taking my master's degree in astrophysics at the moment, and it is clear that the impact of artificial intelligence on the space missions is incredible. There are spacecrafts that exploit AI to navigate in orbit autonomously without requiring a real-time control from the ground, or maybe to perform precise avoidance maneuvers to avoid collisions with space debris. Even in the medical field, for example, great things are being done with AI to create intelligent processes that can pick up and interpret electrical signals of the brain and allow the patient to control an artificial hand, for example. That being said, I believe that in the artistic field specifically, this technology is only detrimental at the moment. First of all, in the fields I've mentioned before, AI is indeed a tool. It helps to make certain tasks more efficient, certain parts of a much larger project. In art, on the other hand, AI basically cannot be considered a tool. Whereas a graphics tablet is a tool because it helps to speed up certain processes and offers options that make the creation of the work more efficient, AI replaces the artists entirely and therefore cannot be considered a tool. A tool helps the process. AI in art is the entire process instead. At most, one can consider man as an instrument of the AI in this case, because AI is the one who controls the process of the creation. In my eyes, art is a romantic endeavor and should not be thought in terms of industrial production. Sure, with AI you can produce an image much faster, but what does that image represent then? What gratification can an artist possibly get from producing such an image? I believe that the value of the work of art does not lie solely on the image itself, but rather in the vision behind it, in the effort and hours that the artist has invested in that work, in the years that the artist has spent perfecting his technique and style to finally arrive at that result. Not to mention that at the moment, using AI to produce images is basically stealing, as it relies on the work of countless artists who receive nothing in return for the use of their work for AI training. Or at least it should be treated as stealing in my opinion. Unfortunately, this is still not the case. If I can't type into Google Batman drawn by David Finch, print the image and then sell it because copyright exists, I don't see why it should be possible to use David Finch's images to training an AI or even require in the prompt to refer to David Finch's style. This is the paradox. Art and music live by copyright, except for AI apparently. But here we come back to the previous topic. As long as there is no legal regulation with clear, unequivocal laws, big companies will always continue to offer their AI to lazy people. And remember, those who say that this makes art more democratic are simply wrong. Art is already democratic now. Anyone can buy a pencil and draw. You just have to be willing to work hard to improve. AI does not make art democratic. It creates a shortcut for lazy people to get a result without having to work hard, without having to acquire a certain skill through hours of training. It is pure capitalist consumerism. One of the biggest problems is that people who talk about AI in art have nothing to do usually with the artistic field. I have had many discussions on this topic on social media, and every time someone had a different opinion than mine, it was someone outside the art field. I understand that for someone who is not an artist, it is difficult to fully understand the negative impact of this technology. It is not easy to realize what it means to make art if you are not driven by that passion. At the same time, however, one cannot have the presumption to pronounce oneself on the issue and pretend that that position is as valid as the one of an artist. Mind you, it is not wrong to have a different opinion in general, it is just that those who do not make a living from art, those who are not in the artistic sphere, will necessarily have a myopic, partial view of the matter. I have friends who suggested me, for example, that I use AI to make backgrounds faster or to create more works for social media. I appreciate the thought because I know the intention behind was positive, they sincerely wanted to help me as an artist. However, from my point of view, it is absurd to think of delegating my work to someone else, or something else in this case, to think of creating an image of which a good part does not come from me. Also, I really want to spend 10 hours on a drawing. I don't want to speed things up. I want to spend my time drawing because it makes me happy. It's something that only those who are passionate understand. It's like asking a sprinter to run in motorized shoes to make a shorter time. That is not why the athlete runs. He wants to push its limits further, he wants to make the most of his abilities. It would lose all meaning to have a 100-meter race in the Olympics done with scooters, wouldn't it? It's kind of the same principle with art as well. Finally, my friends, as we take a look at the final result, I would like to know what you think about these issues. I would love to read your comments on them. I would also like to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, drop a like, and thank you for spending your time watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time, guys.
Goodbye.